Hello, and a warm welcome to our show, Love Athletics. In this program, we bring you the latest highlights from our sport with expert input from different continental areas. And we're delighted to have back with us today Ghanaian journalist Fentuo Tahiru. Hello, Fentuo. Lovely to see you, and a big thank you for joining us.
Absolute pleasure. Always happy to be here.
Thank you. So today we'll review all the athletics news of the past fortnight, but like last time, we're going to split the show into two parts. Part one will focus on the African Championships in Accra, and part two will include the inaugural Diamond League meeting in Shanghai, Kochao, and other highlights from our sport over the last 2 weeks. So let's start then with the African Championships, held from the 12th to the 17th of May in Ghana. Now, I don't like to be negative, but before looking at all the good results, surprises, exciting battles witnessed in Accra, we cannot avoid speaking about the issues. Lack of global stars, organizational issues, huge delays in publication of results, and also the pall cast on the event by the passing of longtime African Athletics Confederation President Hamad Kalkaba Malboum on 13th of May. So, Fentuo, how difficult was it for journalists to cover these championships?
Well, I agree with you. It was pretty challenging. It's a pretty modest way to put it. And a lot of it largely had to do with access to results because the results obviously were available. The timer was working all right. The problem was communicating the results. The stopwatch, the race clock at the finish line wasn't working for the first 2 days. So the challenge wasn't just for journalists alone, also for the athletes who had no clue where they finished at the end of the race because the race clock didn't work the first 2 days. So it became really difficult, and the communication of results wasn't always immediate. And you know how it is with athletics, even 20 seconds just waiting for results can seem like a lifetime. We saw that during the Paris Olympic Games, that 100 meters that was determined by 3 thousandths of a second. They waited altogether about 10 to 15 seconds. But every time you think back at that moment, it seemed like they were waiting for eternity. So imagine having to wait for 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes for results, as we saw on day 2 with 100 meters men and women. So that was the biggest challenge. The rest of the issues, internet issues, those were all fixed towards the latter stages, and those are issues that can often arise. But the issue of results for me was the biggest issue. The conditions were fine. The track was good. The race, the clock was working, and I'm talking about a photo finish camera. Everything was working. It's just the communication, how to relay the results onto a screen or give it to journalists, that was the biggest problem. However, I have to admit that the last 3 days were pretty good. We covered really well, and I think in the end the race clock at the finish line was working, and now results could be communicated immediately, and things became smoother from then on.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, first days are always a bit rough on any competition, but it's a good thing that they managed to sort out the results issues in the latter half. So, in spite of that, there were a lot of really interesting results, and we're going to focus on that now in our review. So, starting with the men, Fentuo, which male athletes impressed you the most in Accra?
Well, I have to say that Fentuo Tahiru of Cote d'Ivoire, who won the men's 200 meters, he also anchored Cote d'Ivoire's men to a 4x100 meter relay gold with a national record, their first ever title in the African Championships in the relays. The men, we're very familiar with Cote d'Ivoire's women and how well they've been sprinting over the last few years, but not so much about the men, apart from Arthur Cisse, I don't think we've had an Ivorian man in the sprints do wonderful things until this kid popped up and he didn't just come out of nowhere. He's an NCAA champion from the 200 from 2024. So he's always shown great potential. He qualified for the Paris Olympic Games, but I think Accra would be where everything really just came together for him, because while everyone was paying attention to traditional heavyweights from Nigeria and Ghana, he was running well from all the earlier rounds, and we saw, and it's one thing to win from an outside lane or middle lanes, but to win from lane one is always more difficult. And that's what he did in the relays, and in the individual 200 meters, he completely blew the entire field apart, and to get his first ever individual championship medal. That was absolutely phenomenal to see. And you could just see that it's opening up a really good path for him in Scott. And finally, all of that potential from the NCAA now showing. He doesn't speak much of French because he grew up in America with an American accent. So it was really weird, talking to an Ivorian guy. So I asked him, how do you communicate with all these guys? Because Atasise doesn't speak English either. It's a really weird dynamic, but he's found a way to make it work and be successful in it. So I was really surprised to see, because no one was paying attention to him, and he came to Accra and delivered 2 gold medals.
Yeah, no, that was good. And as you say, interesting to see the men now doing well men from Côte d'Ivoire doing well in the sprints.
Absolutely.
And your next one?
Yes, Dawit Tiari of Eritrea. And I think he's a favorite of yours as well, isn't he? 21 years of age, really young, has been showing a lot of potential in the road running series. Over the years, was at the Paris Olympic Games, finished fifth in the men's 19th, I believe, in the men's 5,000 meters. He was here in Accra as well 2 years ago as a 19-year-old. He ran in both the 10,000 meters and the 5,000 meters during the African Games. Obviously didn't get on the podium on any of them. But in Accra, he did something that Eritrea hadn't managed to achieve in that event ever, which is win gold. And the way he did it, kicking just about 150 meters to go, it was ridiculous to see. And sometimes we tend to underestimate the importance or the meaning of historic victories, but you should see his celebration. I'm sure you've had a chance to look at it. You can see how much it means to him to have won that Eritrea's first ever gold medal in the 5,000 and their second ever gold medal in the African Championship. The first one coming back in 2014 from Amlosum. So, it was historic by all standards. And we don't tend to see a lot of these athletes from this much smaller nation. They came with an athlete contingent of about 3, I believe, and he walked away with 1 gold medal in the process. It was unbelievable, like the joy. And you could just see from journalists to officials, anyone that had anything remotely to do with Eritrea was with an absolute delirium at that finish line. It was unbelievable. And for me, that was a really standout performance.
No, absolutely. Because as you say, we knew he was talented. He was also from the Olympics, but also he was 4th at the World Road Running Championships 2 years ago in the 5K. But to actually get that victory and with that final sprint, that was cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And next up and final one, obviously for me, the men, it's not an individual per se, but a team. And I'm talking Zimbabwe's 4x400 meter relay team. The thing is, I think, and it's really surprising that that 2 of their men finished on the podium in the individual 400 meters, Zuzi and Dennis as well. And you wonder why no one was paying attention to just how much damage they could cause, because all the eyes were on Botswana for the right reasons, to be fair, because Botswana have shown that when it comes to the 4x4 relays, there's really no other team that can compete with them. Kenya have traditionally been strong, so have Nigeria. But I think having those 2 men on the podium should have been our warning. And yet again, history told us perhaps to believe the traditional heavyweights, and we did. But Zimbabwe, my word, they were ridiculously good. They blew the field apart. and it was beautiful to see. And I think it's just another reminder that Southern African sprinting in the 400 meters is reaching new levels, and that wave isn't just happening in one country. We've seen how strong South Africa have been. We've seen Botswana's strength, obviously, and now Zimbabwe getting into the mix, set a national record at the World Relays. They're going to the World Championship. And we're not far from seeing 3 Southern African nations finishing on the podium at the world stage. We saw 2 of them, obviously, on the podium at the World Championship last time in Tokyo. Who knows? Maybe Zimbabwe becomes a 3rd one and knock America off the podium. You never know. But that was really beautiful to see.
No, absolutely. And Zimbabwe, they had 2 athletes in the final of the 200 in Paris at the Olympics. So they really have some very, very talented, sprinters, and definitely a country to watch.
Yeah, exactly. Those 2, in fact, those 2 that made the final in the 200 were in Accra, Makarawu and Chiramba. Makarawu won in the 100. He didn't medal, but then Chiramba got injured as well. He was going to run the 200. He got injured, so he was the favorite. I would have loved to see him and Sheikh Traore, but he got injured and never really ran. So that was a bit unfortunate. But both the finalists from Paris were in Accra as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd read that they were there. So sorry to hear that Charamba got injured. That's a shame. Hope he recovers quickly. Now, on my side among the men, I'd like to highlight 3 more events. And the first is a discipline which just a few years ago was definitely not a highlight at African Championships. That's the race walk. Ethiopia's Misgana Wakuma. Now, we need to remember that he was silver medalist in the half marathon at the World Race Walking Team Championships in Brasilia last month. He was also 6th at the World Championships over the 20 kilometers. And at that race in Accra, held over the classic distance, he not only defended his 2024 title, but with a mark of 1 hour 18:47, he took 5 seconds off the world lead and signed the very best performance at the championships. So that was really quite impressive. And to make victory even sweeter, his compatriot Wubalem Shuwute improved she had 2 fourth places. She, in the past editions, she clinched gold this time, and she also improved the world lead. Now, it's true that a lot of competitions are now held over the half marathon, no longer on the 20K, but still very, very good performance for the 2 Ethiopians. And other top marks among the men came from athletes representing Botswana. We were talking about the 400 individual, and Lee Epi, who had run the first leg of the country's mile relay, which triumphed at the World Relays in Gaborone at the beginning of the month. He accelerated in the second half of the race to win the 400 final in 44.66. He had already run 44.52 in the heats, and those marks are also worth over 1,200 points, 1,203 and 1,213 respectively. And as we saw, behind Epi, the 2 athletes from Botswana, Dennis Bradley Hove, 44.92, and Zuza Leaford, 45.03. Now, that 400 was a super high quality race. We'll see later in the show, 5 of the top 10 marks in Accra were achieved in the 400 meters. So that was really impressive. Now, as you say, Fentuo, seeing 2 athletes from Zimbabwe on the podium should have rung some alarm bells for Botswana.
Absolutely, they should have, and it should have informed their decision as well on how to go about the arrangement in the 4x4 relay. They didn't even get on the podium, as you mentioned earlier. And one of those decisions that probably cost them was dropping Lee AP, who's so famous for often running that thrilling, first leg of the Botswana 4x4. He didn't run in the relays at all. And then they drafted in Kemarena Tisan, who had already also ran the 400 hurdles individual and the 100 individual. So he was definitely an exhausted man. So all of that just sort of counted against Botswana. Certainly from not taking a hint from what Zimbabwe had done on the podium in the individual 400.
Yeah. They took it too lightly. They thought we're going to win this. And you
another
mentioned
team that I thought was going to do well, Anna, is Senegal. You saw them at the World Relays, didn't you? And they qualified for the World Championships too, but they too were a team that didn't get on the podium. So that was also a bit surprising.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Now, the other Swana that I wanted to mention is Kemarena Tisang. And as you said, he'd won, he took gold in Accra. He already had silver from the previous edition. And at age 31, so 48.66, second best mark on the continent. And he's had a very, very consistent year. Also boasting the 3 next best marks in Africa. And as you pointed out, he also contested the 100 hurdles in Accra, and he finished just off the podium. So very, very good performance. Now, Fentuo, you had honorable mentions for 2 more athletes. Tell us who they are.
Yes. The first one would be Julius Yego, the legend, right? He shows up at every African Championships, doesn't he? He went away with his 6th gold medal of the championships, and that is unbelievable. That is not the second most gold medals any athlete has had in an individual event at the African Championship, only second behind Algeria's Hakim Toumé, who won 7 between 1984 and 1998 in the hammer throw. And speaking to Julius, he had indicated that he has a lot more in the tank to go. He says he's aiming for LA 28, and between LA 28 from now till LA 28, obviously is Botswana, the 2028 as well in the African Championship. So perhaps he could go there and match that record. But the fact that he keeps showing up every single time, it's unbelievable. His first gold medal came all the way back in 2010. How long has that been?
Yeah, no, really, a true legend. I really have huge admiration for Julius Yego, really good. And also he was able to bring out his best in Accra, because there's the South African Doe Smith. He had already thrown over 81 and over 80 meters this year, but still, Julius was there when it mattered.
Absolutely.
And your other special mention?
Luvo Manyanga, the former world champion, the South African long jumper. I mean, he's got quite a story. Obviously, we all love a good comeback story, and it's really good to see him come back and get on that podium, top of the podium, and get a gold medal. And I mention him because I know how difficult it can be, how tough it can be getting back to the top level. After going through what he went through, can't imagine what it did to him physically or mentally. And he seemed really chatty, always smiley, always happy and bubbly. And it's really good to see that he was a good place. And winning obviously does help in that journey. And he's been jumping consistently at the start of this year. And this was, I think, his top mark so far this year, his season best. And so it just tells you that he just continues to be better and better. And he still has a lot more to give in the tank, and I was really happy to see.
Yeah. And as you say, I also love the fact that Luvo is always smiling, even in the World Indoors, where he hadn't done well. It was so good to see him back. It was so good to see him, just happy to be there. So I'm glad that he got this first gold. So let's move now to the women. So who were the female athletes that impressed you?
Well, another first timer, Emmeline Imani-Zabayo from Rwanda. First ever gold medal for Rwanda at the African Championships. And, her her celebration was also very similar to Dawit Siari's celebration. Hers was probably maybe slightly wilder. And, I just, I mean, and I love historic moments like this because I don't think that she ever dreamed of this, that she could become the first person, man or woman, male or female, to deliver her country the first ever gold medal in any event at the African Championship. And to be fair to her, she's been running consistently over the last few years. So this was a befitting crowning moment. And the fact that she did it in Accra under the circumstances, with all the coaches and all the other athletes around her, the celebration beamed across the world. It was unbelievable. I was monitoring Rwandan media, and the way they reported on that victory seemed like she was ready for a hero's welcome. I haven't seen a hero's welcome. I haven't seen images of how they welcomed her back home, or whether she even went back home straight away, because I know she would have competitions to go to after that. But it was really beautiful to see.
Absolutely, and it's cool because then a couple of days later, another lady from Rwanda took silver in the 10,000. So she opened
Yes.
the gates, and then Florence also took a medal. So that was cool. And what I liked about Imani Zabayo is that actually Djibouti's Samia Hassan Noor, who came second, she's 26 versus 30 for Emmeline, and she was actually the stronger athlete. She's been having some good results, and that she was able to beat a strong contestant like Hassan Noor is really really impressive.
Indeed, indeed. So, shall we go to my next one that impressed
Let's
me?
go.
The female. I chose Rosemary Chukwuma of Nigeria. She's been running for the country for the better part of 10 years, and she's still pretty young for how long she's been running for the country. And she's usually been key part of Nigeria's 4x100 meter relay team, the women that have consistently competed at the highest level. But she came to Accra looking for an individual medal, and she entered only the 100 meters, believing that she was in a strong position to win. And she had reason to believe it because she had been running well at the start of this season. And and then the shock happened because at the finish line, like when the both athletes finished, again, as a result of the issues with communicating the results, she celebrated momentarily, believing that she had won the race. She had the Nigeria flag draped all over her. And for the better part of 4 minutes, she was that she was not the champion and that the Cameroonian had Verge Kole Itame indeed had been the one that won the race. She was so disappointed. And I remember seeing her because they even filed a protest, Anna, to try and have another relook at the photo finish because she didn't think that she lost. And when it came back, we could understand, for example, why that was the case. She lost it by 3,000ths of a second. I've never seen anything like it because her Verge won. The winning time was 11.485, and she finished second in 4.88. 11.488. It was so close, so tight. And and after that, she came to terms with the result, and she wasn't supposed to run the 200. But then she's decided if she didn't get the gold in 100, she was not going to enter the 200. So she entered the 200 once more. And in the 200, again, she missed out on gold. And it was devastating. But then she still got gold in the 4x100 meter relay. which I thought was really impressive. And for me, like the consistency and the determination, the fight and the spirit that she showed in this championship, it just tells me that she's somebody that's capable of winning, because you can tell that she's got a great attitude and a great self belief that will push her to greater heights.
Absolutely. I mean, in the 200, Mabundu Kone, she was really strong. But Rosemary was able to hang on for the silver by 0.02 of a second this time.
Again,
So,
another really close one. Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. So she was really unfortunate at this championship. But then again, that's track and field, right? Nothing ever belongs to you. You have to fight for every single one. And she fought a really good fight. It just wasn't to be. But 2 silvers and a gold is still really good showing.
Yes, definitely. Mhm. And your third choice?
Yes. So my third choice for the women that impressed me at this championship has to be Thelma Davis, and her medal was Liberia's first in individual female competition at the African Championships, and she's got a very interesting story, and you will love this because it was more of like a folk homecoming kind of story for her, and to do it in Accra was extra special because she was born here in a refugee camp about 30 kilometers just outside of Accra. And she left here with her family around the age of 2 to go to the US, and she's never been back to the country until these championships. In fact, she hadn't been back to the continent till the 2024 African Championships in Cameroon when she came to compete. At that time, obviously, she didn't medal. And then she's come to Accra where she had family members who still live in Accra from that time who came to support her. And it felt like she was really at home. And to get on the podium in the women's 100 meters in front of a family in the country where she was born, it was all kinds of special. And she did get another medal in the 4x1 relay. So to leave Accra with 2 medals on your first visit back to the country where you were born, where you left, several years, 24 years ago, to come back and get on the podium in front of your family to celebrate like that is, I mean, I don't know how many times these kinds of scripts can be written, but that was pretty special.
Absolutely. That was a fantastic story because when you selected Thelma, I did some searching and then I found your interview with her for Olympics.com. And it's just a crazy, crazy story. Really wonderful.
Absolutely. It was unbelievable. It's like, how could this be scripted? Like, this just makes no sense, right?
Yeah.
And even she couldn't believe it. But, it's just how some of these stories just write themselves.
Yeah, wonderful. Mm-mm. Now, on my side, I'm going to choose the most impressive technical performances among the ladies, which came from the hurdlers. First of all, huge congratulations for Nigeria's Toby Amusan. As we know, 2022 world champion, she had set the world record there. She was the only truly global star still running very well to compete in Accra. She won her third continental title, 12.84 into a 2.2 headwind. And she had actually run a little bit faster in the heats. So that was the best women's performance. And not only after competing in Accra, she rushed to China, where only 3 days later, she came third in the inaugural Diamond League meeting. So I like the fact that she was there, she gave her best, and she didn't say, oh, I'm not going to Accra because I have a Diamond League meet. So I really appreciate that. Now, Fentuo, isn't it great that such a champion decided to honor the continental event?
The thing I love about track and field is that it's the only sport where uh, everywhere you look, there's always a special story emerging from everywhere, and it's so. And this was one of those at the moments where I thought, okay, you know what, this is pretty special. So yeah, absolutely, I loved I love that performance as well. And, Anna, we could go on. I believe we could go on and on and on about so many stand-up performers. You can only pick a few, can't you? Because,
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
and it's not even just about those that won, right? That's the thing about track and
Yes,
field, because somebody can finish sixth and they have probably a better story and a better performance than the one that got gold. Sometimes
yeah,
the world is just fixated on the one that won the goal, but there's someone always in the midfield that has beat their own record, that has broken a national record. No matter how slow that time looks by global standards, to the athlete, it can be pretty special.
yes, yes. That's true. Now, my other standout performance is South Africa's Rogel Joseph. She defended her title in the 400 hurdles and was really dominant, 54.74. That's her third best time ever after the marks she had set in the heats and semis at the 2024 Olympics. So again, congratulations for bringing her best to Accra. And the 800 meter was also a good race. 3 podium finishers concluding their effort under 2 minutes. Ethiopia's Misgana Hailu pipped Botswana's Oratile Noe 159.02 to 159.09. And Nigeria's Samira Awali clocked 159.63. So very good level of competition. And there's also some new faces that I would like to speak about, 2 under 20 athletes. The first is Egyptian javelin thrower Asil Osama Abdelhamid. She only turned 18 in mid-April, and she added 4.5 meters to her PB, which she had set when winning the Arab Under-20 Championships just 2 weeks earlier. And she threw 69 meters 97. That mark is number 17 on the Under-20 all-time list. But on that day, it was also number 9 worldwide among the seniors. Although on the Sunday, she competed on the Saturday, on Sunday 17, there were 4 other good marks, which pushed her to number 13. But still, very good. Women's javelin is obviously in a phase of clear stagnation, but still remarkable performance from an athlete who is that young. So congratulations to Asil. And the other new face I'd like to mention is Ethiopia's Ajaiba Aliye, who only turns 19 on 6 June. And she's an athlete from whom World Athletics had no results prior to this year. She took a stunning win in the 400 flat in 51.54. She had run faster in the heats, 51.37. And again, like the Eritrean Dawit, she surged in the home straight, passing Bassam Temida from Egypt, who is pretty well known and who was then in the lead. Now, the Egyptian is a regular presence, of course, in international events. She had recently improved to 50.27 at the Botswana Golden Grand Prix in Gaborone, but in Accra, she actually faded to 4th and had also been clearly defeated by Ajabia in the heats. So congratulations to this young Ethiopian. Now, we mentioned this briefly, Fentuo, but isn't it great how at the continental event, you always discover new faces, new stories?
Yeah, and Ajaba is one. I remember her finishing and me looking at the start list and looking at the finish line. I was like, okay, who is this? Ajaba Ali. I can't find anything about her. I'm like, where did she come from?
Yeah.
So I'm really glad that you mentioned that, the fact that World Athletics had no record previous performance record of her until she showed up in Accra, and she looked really good. I love her running form; it's very straight, very upright, and she's definitely destined to do greater things if she continues on this path. And you mentioned Hamida Basant. My first time watching Hamida was in Asaba in 2018. At the time, she was doing the 100 meters. And it's really good to see her transition into the 400. And then she looked like a young, exciting athlete. Now she's definitely a veteran. So it's good to see her always show up. I also saw her in Tokyo as well at the World Championship last time out. So really good. The brother is competing for Qatar, if I'm not mistaken. Also Hamida. So it's very interesting to see. I think Mohammed Hamida or something like that. And she told us about it in the mix zone in Tokyo. Like her direct brother is competing for Qatar.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Fentuo. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So let's now recap some special moments in Accra: doubles, new faces, and legends. So here we go. On the doubles, of course, the 20-kilometer race walk double for Ethiopia with Misgana Wakuma and Wabulem Shugute. Both, as we said, are best marks of the year over the distance. And Misgana is the best in Accra. 100-meter double for Cameroon with Emmanuel Ezeme and Herberge Kole Etame. In spite of the issues with the photo finish, it still is a double for them, a double in the 200 for Côte d'Ivoire with Shekna Traoré and Mabundu Kone. Then among the new faces, Ajaba Aliye, as we said, gold in her first international event. She had been part of the relay of the Ethiopian relay in both women and mixed in Gaborone. And actually, I find it great that Ethiopia is now producing a 400-meter runner. So I like that.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like when Kenya started delving into sprints, they're like, what's going on here? You have dominated one side, just stay there.
Yeah, exactly. With the new faces, of course, Emmeline Imani Zabayo of Rwanda. Javelin, also the young Egyptian Asil Osama Abdel Hamid. And then among the legends, the top is Julius Yego, 6th African title. He's now aged 37. And as you mentioned, his first African title was in 2012. Hammer thrower Mustafa El Gamel of Egypt took his 4th African title, also aged 37. His first was 2 years after Yego. It was in 2014. Tobia Musan, 3rd title. That was her performance was the highest score among the women. Luvo Manyonga. Back at age 35, his first African title. He'd been 2nd in 2016 and 2018, but he had actually won his first continental title in 2011 at the All Africa Games. So really great to see him back at the top. And I'd like now to look at the top 10 performances based on the result score for both men and women. So as we said, for the men, it's the 20K race walk. Misgana, that's worth 1,217 points. Then Epi in the heats with 44.52, Epi in the final with 44.66. In the 400 hurdles in 4th place, Kemorena Tisang, that's worth just below 1,200, 1,197. Race walk silver medalist, Stephen Dangiro Kihu of Kenya, 1,191 points. Then more 400 meters, Dennis Bradley Hove, his mark in the semifinal, that's worth 1,188. Epi's mark in the semi is 1,187. Côte d'Ivoire's relay, now World Athletics still doesn't have the results for the sprint relay, even though it's days ago. 400 meters, Hove of Zimbabwe with 44.92 in the final. That's in number 9. And the Zimbabwe's mile relay is in position 10. So as we see, great depth in the men's 400, which, as you mentioned, is one of the strongest events in Africa now. Among the women, the very best, Toby Amusan, her 12.84 into a headwind of 2.2 meters per second is worth 1,184. She'd run in 12.81 in the heats, but World Athletics doesn't have the result, I guess, because they had no wind reading, so they don't publish it. Then Rogail Joseph in the 400 hurdles, that's worth 1,181. Miskana Hailu in the 800, that's worth 1,180. Nigeria's sprint relay and the gold for Rosemary, also 1,180. 800 meter silver medalist Norway, that's worth 1,179. Liberia in the sprint relay, 1,176. Diana Chepkemoi of Kenya in the 3,000 steeplechase, 1,171. Then Samira Awali Abubakar, the third placed athlete in the 800 meters, just under 1,170. 10,000 meters, Diana Wanza of Kenya. And the 10th is actually the fourth placed athlete in the 800, Suad El Haddad of Morocco. So while in the men it was clearly the 400 which had the best depth, in the women it was the 8. And then there's also a very good performance in the mixed relay by Nigeria, whose 3 minutes 16.44 is worth 1,169. So Fentuo, I think the most interesting thing about this table is the diversity in the events and countries making the top 10.
Absolutely, I agree. From field events to track events, so it just tells us that the performances are, the improvement is coming in all directions, and even on the track, it's not just only middle distance or long distance events. So from sprinting to middle distance to long distance, and from throwers to jumpers, everyone is included in the list. So I was really surprised, Anna, about the performances and the top performances in Accra, because I was very afraid of the conditions, because the stadium is slightly below sea level and it was kind of windy as well, especially on the 100-meter mark. When you get around to the back straight, you probably have the wind behind you, but when you're running from the 100-meter start line, it's pretty strong headwind. So it's really glad to see that a lot of these performances were good, and so many athletes got a lot of very decent times and personal bests in these performances. But I guess it was the reason we didn't see an African championship record at these games.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So finally, to conclude our review of the African Championships, let's take a look at the medal table. Now, this is based on the results from the organizing committee. There are some mistakes in the online medal table. Rwanda doesn't have a gold there, while, as we highlighted, Emmeline won the 5,000. On the other hand, Lesotho, I saw a gold medal for Lesotho, say, hey, what's this? And their sprinter, Mojela Koneshe, is listed as having won gold in the decathlon. So there are some things to to be aware of in the table, but overall, South Africa leads with 9 gold, 3 silver, and 10 bronze, very clearly ahead of everyone else, 22 medals in total. Then Kenya, 6, 5, and 7, total 18. Ethiopia, 5, 4, and 5 for a total of 14. Nigeria and Cameroon both have 4 golds, but Nigeria has a lot more medals in total. Côte d'Ivoire had 3 golds, and then Botswana, Egypt, Senegal, and Algeria with 2 golds each. So in all, 18 countries won at least 1 gold, and 26 countries in total won medals.
That's unbelievable. That's unbelievable. The only thing I have to say, Anna, about that medal table is I don't see the host nation in there. What's the host nation? What has happened to the host nation? They got 5 medals overall, 1 silver and 4 bronze medals. But it's okay. It's okay. We'll get them next time.
Especially at home, it hurts a little bit. Mm-hmm.
Also, I believe Cameroon got 3 gold medals. So there was a bit of an error there. The two medals came from the 100 meters, both men and women, and
yes.
1 from discus, Atimoni, and the women's discus. And that's pretty much it. Yeah.
Yeah, probably. I didn't check the whole thing. There were some things which were clear.
Not
so,
your I don't know, and I'm here.
Top three are sure in any case, so that's good. So thank you, Fentuo. That concludes part 1 of today's program.
Thank you very much. Always a pleasure.